Government is working on introducing a vaccine passport, but there are questions about whether this would lead to discrimination against those who don't want the vaccine or those who cannot access it. We're talking about the COVID-19 vaccine, by the way. England, which initially introduced a vaccine passport for people to enter nightclubs and large events, has now abandoned the idea. However, the EU requires those who want to cross borders to prove that they have been vaccinated against the coronavirus. Well, to help us unpack this issue further, we are joined this hour by Professor Tulio de Oliveira, the director of the Innovation and Sequencing Platform, CRISP. Prof, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View on ENC, and thank you very much for your time. When I read the words vaccine passport, I'm thinking, are we using the right words? And I'm just saying this firstly because in the past, when you travel to some countries in the world, you have to get, for example, a yellow fever vaccine, and you will get that certificate, as they used to call it, that you have indeed vaccinated against yellow fever. Why are we choosing the word passport to COVID-19 vaccination?
Okay, good day, Dan, and a very good afternoon to all your viewers. So I think that you're touching some very important facts. The first one is that the idea of vaccine passports, it's something that it is used for the past 30 years or 40 years. And for example, the yellow fever, you cannot go to many countries in the world, including you cannot enter in South Africa if you come from South America or Southeast Asia, if you don't have the yellow fever vaccine passport. And we also have in South Africa in a different way. So for example, very recently, my children, they are changing schools and they are going to a public school. And one of the things that they demand once before they accept them was to see the vaccination card. So that's also happening in a different way in South Africa. So that's quite common, used around the world for many different viruses and bacteria. For example, for TB, everyone has to be vaccinated. And that is something that it is quite used.
I'm just trying to establish, what's the situation with the COVID-19 vaccine passport. As you said, you and I agree, this kind of documentation of proving that, yes, you have been vaccinated against a disease has been there for a long time. I mean, when I was growing up, and including my own children here in South Africa, when you start primary school, they wanted to see the immunization certificate against polio, against measles and stuff like that. Why is the COVID-19 vaccine document or passport or certificate is such a controversial one?
I honestly don't know why such controversial, because one thing that we know as a scientist is that this virus is really, really, really persistent. We know that it is not going away. We are having waves after waves. We have variants after variants. And one thing that we know as scientists working very close with many national and international organs is that the effect of this virus, which is really, really highly transmissible and very difficult to get rid, is catastrophic. It's catastrophic for the health. Hundreds of thousands of people die. It's catastrophic for the economy. It's catastrophic for the education. A lot of children are getting much weaker education, and it's also catastrophic for mental health. So I honestly don't know why there is such a controversy, especially on the argument that people want to have freedom. And one of these things that this vaccine will bring to us, the COVID vaccine, it is a lot of freedom to go back to normal life. But a lot of times freedom is associated with responsibility. As you highlight, your children to have the freedom to go to a certain public school needed to get the vaccination. So I really hope that we can we can decrease this controversy, because we really, really need to go back to normal life.
Yeah, but what about those who fear discrimination, that such a document might then be used to discriminate against them? I mean, we've seen apparently in England now, the government, they're abandoning the idea where people had to show such a document to access nightclubs.
Yeah, I really think that England is not the best country in the world to compare at the moment. Yeah, I honestly think that they made such a mess of the epidemic. Yeah, not only England's one of the most developed countries in the world, but they end up with the highest epidemic and mortality of whole Europe, with some countries much, much lower development and economically than them. And they have a very populist government that like change a lot of the mind. As you're going to remember, the prime minister before was shaking the hands of the patients and say that he was not scared of the virus, and he ended up very severely ill and hospitalized. And then he changed to put the most draconian lockdowns, like for 4 or 5 months. So I honestly don't think that we should look at England and how they changed.
So who should South Africa look to for examples? The government is considering now, we understand, on introducing a vaccine passport. I mean, what it should look like is not the issue. The issue is how it's going to be managed, the whole process, and how it's going to be used. Who should the South African health authorities look to for a good example of how to establish and implement such a COVID-19 vaccine passport?
Yeah, so, yeah, thank you, Dan. I think from what I have seen about international response to this virus, it seems that the European Commission at the moment, or the European Union, is quite pragmatic, yeah, and they begin to get that under control. And then we have countries that did extremely well, such as even China or Taiwan or Vietnam or Australia or New Zealand, and all of them have put in some kind of passport to enter the country or to move areas, yeah. And they have suffered much less economically, yeah? And they managed to go much quicker back to almost normal ways. So there is a lot of countries, there is a lot of regions around the world that try to be pragmatic, playing with the economy and the life of and health in the other ways. And I think that at the moment, my big suggestion, it is the European Union, because they're implementing that in 30 different countries, and South Africa tend to be quite distinct across different provinces, or even go to the east to see what Singapore did, or Australia or New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. I guess from your answers, you are for such a document, because it's going to be used to make sure there's more freedom. And if we want to go back to be free again, to go back to some form of a normal kind of existence like we're used to, such a document is going to help us.
Yeah, so just to be clear, I think that people have to choose. Yeah, if freedom comes with responsibility. So if you want your freedom not to be vaccinated, which is the right freedom, so potentially you may not be able to travel internationally because the other countries may not want to receive you, and that's something that's well spread, or you may not be able to go to an event that may infect hundreds of thousands of people, such as a music festival or a football game. So I think that the really easy thing is just like, if people really worrying about the freedom, is just really to do what's the easy thing, is to take a jab and go back to our economy, and go back to really freedom, yeah, and go back to our normal days, yeah. So I am against any kind of discrimination, yeah, but I think that we really need to think quite carefully, and put on the balance the freedom and responsibility of both individuals, but also the population. Yeah, and I really hope that South Africa can to really increase the economy, because we really need that. Thank you.
I guess like everything else, a decision comes with its. There are trade-offs here. You take the jab, you get the certificate, you're going to have freedom to attend a concert of your musician that you like, or travel to a destination. Mauritius has just opened for South Africans. You can travel there, but you have to prove that you're there. If you've decided not to get vaccinated, well, the trade-off really is that you won't be able to attend a concert. You won't be allowed in some venues. Thank you very much, Professor Tulio de Oliveira, with your insights there. He's, of course, the director of the Innovation and Sequencing platform, CRISP. We're still talking about this whole issue of COVID-19, the vaccination. One of the biggest questions, or important questions, is when will South Africa reach herd? I don't like herd immunity. I prefer population immunity against COVID-19.